What do you get when a legless lad and a blind bloke walk into a bar? A couple of mates on a mission to challenge what it means to be tough.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of G'day, Benny. Talkin Tough.
Talkin Tough,
Here we
mate.
are having
What's
a bit
going
of
on?
Talkin Tough action. This is going to be a bit of a check-in, a bit of a debrief before we head into our guests for season 2. Looking forward to that. It's been all sorts of things, getting out on the road, connecting with communities, presenting, but it's fair to say that we need to walk our talk. So there's been some challenges along the way for us. Obviously linked to this sort of situation that's going on here, the old leg stuff, and then obviously, your eyeballs and our collective families, got young families. So there's been a few balls in the air, so to speak, isn't there?
Absolutely, there is, mate. And before we get into that, as always, we are proudly brought to you by Ski for Life. Ski for Life,
Certainly
South Australian charity, dedicated to promoting mental health, wellbeing and suicide prevention right across the country. So big thanks to them for being on board in season 2 again as well. But like you said, mate, there has been plenty of ups and downs, and I think it'd be wrong of us to sort of come off the back of episode 1 of season 2 where we go, hey, listen, we've been travelling around, we've been on stages, we've been meeting people, we've been running all these sessions, talking to people about how to support their mental health and what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
If we don't actually hold the old mirror up to one another and go, how are you actually going? Right? Instead of just the, how you going, mate, at the start of the episode? Yeah, no, not bad, yourself. Right,
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's start chatting to guests. Actually go, let's walk our talk because life's hectic.
Yep.
Life's hectic for all of us out there. And it's
We
wrong.
spent a lot of time. We spent a hell of a lot of time on the road too. As we say, I'm the one that is doing the driving. A-grade passenger, though. I will say
Thank you,
that
mate.
because you
Good navigator.
Keep it entertaining too. We play plenty of games, a lot of football trivia, have a lot of fun. But there is some serious conversations in and amongst that too. Checking in with each other and then also managing, as we said before, life's challenges. But every single person that we meet has their own set of circumstances and challenges. But as you said, it'd be silly of us to get out there, encourage people to not ignore things, to just get on with things no matter what's going on with your life, but also to step up and to talk about things and then also do something about it. I think there's some stuff that goes on between me and you. We check in with each other, but also by extension, other people in our lives as well, making sure that we, if we're in a position and we are feeling, well enough and on top of our game, if we're in a position to help somebody else, then why not do it, right? It's really amazing how much of an impact you can have on someone's life if you just step up and have a chat with them if they are struggling and, check in and see how they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So I think on that note, let's practice what we preach in a way, and by no means do we want sort of this yarn today to be, hey, listen, we've been flat chat, we've been busier than a one-armed bloody bricklayer, but
It's offensive.
yeah, sorry, mate.
No,
Amputee joke without
that would be a one-armed
intention.
juggler, a one-armed bricklayer. I like that one too. That's fantastic.
So I think it's one of those things where I go, look, we don't necessarily want this chat today to be, hey, let's just talk about all the shit, right, that's been going on that behind closed doors we've been struggling with. Because there's been plenty of good parts, there's been plenty of fun
loads.
parts, right? And that's just life, isn't it? It's a roller coaster of ups and downs. So, yes, we might actually talk about some of the stuff we have been struggling with and some of the stuff we're doing about it to get through it and the impact that it's been having and whatnot. But we'll also highlight some of the highlights, some of the good parts that have occurred in sort of our personal lives between season 1 and where we're at now in season 2. So, mate, do you want to kick off with maybe a highlight or two or something that's
Highlight, I think there's been more than just 2. There's been a highlight or 2 or 3 or 10. There's lots of those. Getting out, I think one of the greatest things is around the way that it works, so that people that aren't familiar with Ski for Life, Mates on a Mission, we partner them. They send us on the road, and a lot of the time the community tours are in partnership with Ski for Life, as you said before, awesome partners. But it's the families that you meet that are connected with Ski for Life that host, and the energy that they put into it and the enthusiasm they have is unbelievable. So that's always a massive highlight. You get to really know the families that actually host you. And the great thing about that is because we're coming in totally cold, we don't know anyone in the communities that we're visiting, so it'll be really difficult to sit there and just cold call someone and say, hey, guess what? I'm a bloke with no legs and I've got a mate who's blind and we want to come and chat to people. We don't really get to do that. So
No.
we've got this in with the community. So they actually know, not only do they know people and key stakeholders in the community where they can go to them and say, hey, listen, we've got this really great opportunity to bring people together for a chat. They know that, but also they know what the communities are going through and they can then share that with us, and then you can formulate a way to actually speak to the people that you get to meet along the way too. So it's for me, that's the big highlight is the people. As I always say that, I feel like I get sick of saying that, but getting to get out there and meet those down-to-earth people that are just super genuine and, like everyone in life, have their fair share of challenges that they're dealing with. And the worst part is it'll be great to sit there and say, hey, listen, Mike and Ben are coming to town. They're legless blind and they also control the weather. But we don't. We don't control the weather. Wish we could.
Some people think we do.
Well, I know. Doing a bit of a rain dance or something like that.
That's
but a lot
it.
of the
There's
time,
been a couple of places we've gone where it's rained straight after we've got there, but then there's been other places that I can promise you that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, nah. So that's definitely a highlight for me. It has been over the last little while. What about yourself?
No, but before we get to that, I think you're missing one. Outside of work, been any highlights outside of work that you might be missing?
Isn't it funny?
Mate?
Yeah. Maybe I need to.
I don't want your
have
wife.
A bit of reality check
I don't want your wife to listen to this at the moment.
Well, absolutely. I've welcomed a new little baby girl.
There you go.
That's the biggest highlight of my. I won't say my life because my son, obviously,
These are right
I mean,
too.
anyone, would agree that all of your kids are a massive highlight. So a little girl, so a little boy now, a little girl. That's been a huge highlight. But yeah, sorry, my mind straight away went to sort of the trips and the work that we've been doing, and that's I'll cop a kick, and rightfully so, fairly and squarely up my non-existent backside when I get home tonight.
You got plenty of legs, mate. You can defend. You can.
No, you're right.
Put your running legs on before you get home. So
if
you
we're
can run
talking
away.
about the important stuff and this and family, of course, trumps anything else. Definitely the birth of little June. So it's been challenging and fun and
shit and good.
Great.
And great.
No, she's a ripper baby. I can't complain, mate. I got no complaints. She's awesome.
Yeah, good.
Okay, and yourself.
Yeah.
And you start because you've thrown me off the deep end here. Like off you go, Mike, and then I've just gone and totally just hung myself out to dry.
Hey, you could have said whatever you wanted to.
Now, on if I ask you, you can answer, and you'll still get you'll still be on good speaking terms with your missus.
Yeah. So I have also, or we have also, Amy and I welcomed our second little girl in March, and so she's already starting to grow up, which is bloody amazing how quickly sort of time flies. But I think you just underestimate the difference between both of us having one kid to then going to two kids, and I heard it described perfectly the other day by a mate. We were both having a yarn about sort of the difference between and the leap between going from 1 to 2 and sort of the difference in feeling, impact, everything like that. And I think going from 0 to 1, you go, I'm not prepared for anything that parenthood has to sort of offer and bring. Like it's very much just about now we've got this tiny little human that we've got to keep alive. Like, are we doing the right thing? We've got no idea what we're doing. You're waiting on bated breath, like listening to them breathe for the first week. You're not getting
How
any
impressionable are you as a new parent? It's ridiculous, right? You think like you're just so out of your depth, right? I don't know.
For something that we've, as a species, we've been doing for a bloody long time.
Yeah, second one's not so bad. I will say that. So I remember, I have vivid memories of the first one, and you know, you might be the same. When we had our first one, little Sullivan, right? I remember they gave him to us when it was time to leave because he's only there for like a night or two. Gave him to us, had this little baby wrapped up, took him out to the car. I felt like I'd robbed a bank. Like I was like, what are they doing giving me and my wife a baby? We have absolutely
no qualifications.
Business. Then you got to take it home and care for it, and it's just it's a shock to the system. But as you say, the second one brings with it a whole new set of challenges, and like like we say all the time, it's not like we're doing something that hasn't been done for centuries and centuries or millions of years. You know, it's raising babies. A lot of people do it, but it is one of those things that, you know, any way you wrap it up or try and sugarcoat it, it's a great experience, but it's bloody hard.
It's bloody hard. It's a
bloody
shock
tough.
to the system. Like
It's huge.
It's the best thing. It's one of the hardest things. It's challenging, and I think you're not prepared and necessarily equipped, and are never going to know what it's going to be like to be a parent and how to keep the baby alive, and worrying over every little detail for the first one. You don't worry about any of that the second time, but no one prepares you for just how busy you're going to be with a newborn. And then, like for you and I, it was a toddler. And the toddler who, like, isn't really having a sleep during the day, whereas the newborn comes home
There's
and
transitional.
you're not worried
different
about all the things that you used to worry about with the first one.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, the newborn's easy, but it's the juggle that you don't get prepared for and no one tells you about with the second.
And then you'll almost end up sort of forming your own little like league in the house, don't you? Like you end up in teams. So I always find, because there's so much time and energy that goes into the little one for the mum to bond with the baby, and obviously, you know, feeding and that sort of stuff, then it became me and little Sully. So we were like, I was having to sort of, you know, all hands on deck with him, and then mum didn't get a look in with him and that sort of stuff. So you've got these two teams, so there's different dynamic, and it's like making a conscious effort to make sure that you're all sort of one big family is tough too. So
It's a balancing act.
The dynamic's unbelievable. It's a constant shock to the system, and it is the best thing as well. It's this weird sort of situation
it's bizarre.
You're in.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, that's certainly a highlight for you, having your second beautiful little baby. And, you know, any other highlights that you can think of? So I went work life, you go life work.
Yeah, okay. I'll throw a couple more sort of life ones in there. Had a great camping trip for a long weekend there with me, my old man, and my eldest daughter.
Mate?
It was just 4 days of private property on actually a lady's farm that we met on one of our speaking tours, where we were just on the river by ourselves. We had the quad bike, we had the dogs, we just swam, just got back to basics. And it was just...
Flick the phone off?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I told a few people I didn't have reception, but the trick is just chuck it on airplane mode. And you go, oh, that spot, it doesn't have reception. Sorry about
Straight
that.
to message bank.
Yeah, exactly. But
good feeling.
We need that, right? And I don't think we get that disconnect enough. So that was probably something that reminded me I've got to do more of that.
Yep.
And she just thrived. Like being outdoors, away from the TV.
Great
like
dad-daughter time too, right?
The mood was better.
Yep.
She was just in her absolute element, from bloody cooking marshmallows on the campfire to throwing rocks in the river to swimming to just the basics and just the way life was meant to be enjoyed. So absolutely loved that. Watching the two little ones grow up, and also challenging myself with the run as well, which has had its own ups and downs, which we'll probably talk about in the flip side. But work-wise as well, mate, I can't echo what you said enough. I think we've just met some amazing people, spoke on some pretty incredible stages as well, and some great events, from Beef Week in Rockhampton to going over for the WA Livestock Research Council and doing the events down in Albany and around there, and then LambX, so 1,400 person bloody lamb conference where all we ate was lamb for 3 days straight.
Certainly did.
And then the people that we've met there, where you meet these people at these events, whether it's the big events, whether it's the tiny pubs and footy clubs we've done, and then we end up staying at their houses on the next trip and creating friendships for life.
Get locked in their whiskey cellar, all sorts of stuff
all
that's going on.
Sorts of stuff.
Which
Shout out to the Johnsons. Meet them one day in Rockhampton, and 2 days later we're staying at their joint in the middle of South Australia.
Reliving crocodile attacks. That's a story for another time.
Yeah, that's it. We digress.
Yeah, but it's funny, as we said before. Be remiss of us to sort of say that, it's always smooth sailing. It's certainly not. I remember you mentioned LambX before. There was a really big block of work there, and it was like
middle of the year.
Yeah,
it was full
crazy.
on.
I think we worked out it was like we bit off more than we could chew. It's fair to say, 24 4 days. How many sessions?
Too many.
Too many.
60 something, 63, 64, something like that.
Which is a huge workload, but it was at the start of it. It's sort of Lamb was the big one, and it's fair to say I realised that I wasn't travelling so well, and sort of things were getting on top of me. The impending sort of it coincided with my family going over to the States for a month to be with my in-laws and not seeing my kids for a while, into a huge block of work. Mental health went down, plummeted. And the last thing that you feel like doing sometimes is getting on stage and portraying this image that you're going well and everything's fine and you're this super resilient character when you feel anything but. So it was
it's that hypocritical sort of nature that you
do. But you got a job to do, and that was fine.
Yeah.
So you get through it. I feel like I let a few people down and was beating myself up on that. But I realised we can't be out there doing this sort of stuff without actually doing what we say, what we are. Giving other people sort of tips and tricks on how to, manage through the tough times if we're not going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So first thing I did after that, as you know, had a chat with you and told you sort of where I was at brain-wise and just not thinking clearly and, feeling overwhelmed and not wanting to, just not feeling good in general.
Yeah.
Checked myself into my psychologist, right?
Yeah.
First thing I did. Problem was, couldn't get an appointment until I think it was like 3 months after I called him, even though I said...
How many times do we hear that from people?
A lot, right? It's difficult, and it's hard to slot back in, and it's funny, sometimes and I say this, but I didn't do it myself, is, rather than keeping on top of things, because you get busy and it sort of, maybe sometimes it goes to the back burner, rather than having regular appointments, which I normally do, I let that slip. So I didn't have a regular spot, so I was out to sea, and I'm like, I'm pretty fucked here. Like, need to speak to somebody. And
3 months was feeling like too far away.
Well, yeah.
Especially with, like you say,
kind of feel like
we were
it's
right
this-
at the start of that block of work. So you're going,
Yeah.
if I'm already feeling like putting pressure on myself, like all the things you'll feel, not putting words in your mouth, and then you're looking at the calendar going, holy shit, like I need to see someone now. I'm not waiting 3 months.
I'm not going to be able to wait, right? And if I'm being honest, it was a case of like identifying it and not ignoring it, which is true, because I could have done that. Like, it would have been easy just to go, no, I'll be right. Like, let's just crack on. But if I ignore it, I don't reckon it would have gotten all that better. So happy to talk about it. When we're on these trips, I always talk. First one to admit, I see a psychologist regularly.
Yeah.
Not ashamed of it. I think it's the greatest thing in the world to be able to speak to someone who doesn't know you from a bar of bloody soap and give you advice, and they're much smarter than bloody me, right? Really, really, it's a good part of managing my mental health. That's a good thing. Great thing was my psych knew another bloke, spoke to him. I hope he's not listening. He sounded a bit strange. I was like, is he my guy? That's what you always worry about.
He's not talking about you, mate.
Yeah, no,
it's the other psychologist he's talking about.
Yeah, no, but it's this guy Philip, and I call him, and he's quirky, and I'm like, I don't know if I could sit down and talk to this bloke. Like, he doesn't know me. Then I have to go through the whole leg thing again. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want. What a pain in the ass. Right? I didn't want to do it. Thank God I did, because it was just a quick one before we went on to the next trip. I got there, and he was able to sort of like cut away all the bullshit that was going on in my head, and I was building up, these certain things. Give me a couple of really simple strategies, and off I went. And again, there's a whole world of strategies and services that you can use. They're not all going to be for you. There are going to be some that resonate with you and work for you, and there's going to be some that resonate for the next person that help that you couldn't give a shit about, and those are useless to you. But it's about finding stuff that works. So he gave me a couple of really simple things. And as I said, thank God I went and saw him. I've seen him 3 times since, and I find it really, really useful. But we're not going to sit up here and, as I said, number one, we're not professionals, and we know what it's like to go through really tough times. We know how to maintain resilience and how to get through and the tough times, manage our mental health and that sort of stuff. But we're also not immune to having those downturns just like everybody else. But if you are having a downturn, recognising it and actually stepping up and doing something about it is a really important thing. And, to your credit, that third point about do something about it if you see someone struggling, you and other people in my life probably picked up on a few different things, and they said, Mike, maybe you should. Is everything going all right? Like maybe you should just slow down, have a bit of a think about what's going on, and give yourself a little bit of a break, that sort of thing. And off I went and did it.
And I think you got to give yourself credit as well, mate. Like I still remember you. Like yes, I was asking you because I could see it and I could notice it, and you were flatter than you normally were. Like you were definitely looking and sounding and feeling like a flat tire. Not running like you normally do. But in saying that, like you were the first one to go, yeah, look, I'm not great. I think it's very much like something I've felt before, felt on the golf course. Like I know it's something that I've got to work on. Like you were already self-aware enough to go, I need to do something about this. And I think that also comes from, like you said, you used to have regular psych appointments. So it's not like ringing the psych was the first time you'd ever done it. So maybe that gave you that self-awareness to go, I know I'm in that sort of rut that I need to get out of, and I need some professional help to do it. So hats off to you for sort of doing that, mate. I'd love to ask you as well while we're on that topic, what sort of practical strategies did old Quirky Phil give you?
Oh, I think
that helped, because definitely from that point on, like
I think
I could see the improvement, and I can't freaking see.
Well, yeah, but you can hear it in someone's voice.
Yeah, 100%.
If you spend time with someone, doesn't matter who it is, family, people in the community, you can hear in someone's voice how they're going, right? The flatness meter, right? And I think that the biggest thing that I was aware of was, like you said, I'm aware that I'm not going so well, but I was also really crystal clear that I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. I'm going to need some objectivity here, and I can't just go to my old man. You're all right, mate. You're going really, or whatever it is. Someone that's a bit close that's just going to give you, tell you what you want to hear, or that sort of stuff. So probably the biggest tip that he gave me was, I'm really grateful for it too, is sometimes you can get really caught up and put a whole heap of weight into the things that are probably less important in your life, and they won't matter 5, 10, 15 years from now. And the way that he sort of explained it is, you put these two pieces of paper on his hands, metaphorically, and he said, like, I want you to, imagine all of the stuff that you've got to do on here, which, as I said, I was sort of running on overdrive and probably getting a little bit ahead of myself with all the things that were coming up. And they're sitting in front of you. And then what he did, this really simple thing, he just put his hands in front of his face. And he said, everything that sits beyond that is all the stuff that actually means something to you. But you're getting caught up in all the things right here. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. It was about going back to thinking about the things that matter, and that was my family, and it was, thinking about the good that the work that we do does. It wasn't about, these not being like, there was all this negativity associated with all the things that really weren't going to matter in a week, as I said, in a week and a month or a year. It was about just being able to lower those and actually say, okay, well, let's plug back into the things that actually matter in my life. And I think that was probably a really helpful thing, just a bit of a reminder and a kick up the backside to say, hey, listen, let's get back in, let's check back into what matters most.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is really important.
And it helped?
Yeah, I think it definitely did that, amongst other things. There were some few techniques, like actual practical stuff. There was an app that I downloaded which was really helpful, called Smiling Mind. And I'm the first person to put my hand up that I'm not wonderful at things like mindfulness and meditation, but I tried and I was open to it. And I think that when it comes to dealing with anything, when it comes to your mental health, particularly blokes, is that you've got to be open to it first. It's sort of that old cliche where I always have a bit of a chuckle when someone, gets does something naughty, right? They go to a judge and they've got to get a behavioural sort of intervention, and they give them psychology sessions, and they go, off you go, you got to do 10 Is that going to work if people are going to be closed off to something?
Yeah, when you're forcing it upon someone.
Like, you got to be open to things.
It's no different than your mum telling you to clean your room. It's the last thing you're going to do.
Yeah, I'll clean it when I bloody feel like it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Don't tell me what to do.
Open to it. And we don't like to. No one likes being told what to do.
No,
So
you can nudge people in the right direction. Hey, do you reckon you'd feel better if your room was clean?
Yeah,
do you reckon you'd be able to
absolutely.
find you better if your room was clean? But you're not saying, now, I'm not letting you out of your room until it's clean.
Yeah. And so I know that's me. That was a specific moment. Like, there's obviously other bits and pieces. But what about you, mate? you've got this enormous challenge that you've set yourself with, and you stupidly decided to do it when you were having your second kid. So that
Tell me about it.
compounds everything else, and you're dealing with everything in and around, the challenges of probably the extra challenges that go with not being able to see and that sort of stuff. In terms of what we're out there talking about, how does that relate to you and your challenges and how you deal with things?
Where do you want me to start, mate? How long's a piece of string?
Laundry list.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and that's not to sort of make it sound like it's been a shit year, because it hasn't by any means. Like any year that you're lucky enough to welcome a little daughter into the world, like it's been a bloody amazing year, right? And the work we've done, everything else, there's been so much good in the year. But like you said, the challenge of 3249 blind, setting out to run 3,249 Ks
massive
in the calendar year, has been huge. And the ironic thing was doing it for mental health, wellbeing, suicide prevention, raising money, like doing all that. And then the interesting part is probably that being something in my bucket has been something that's impacted my mental health,
like in the process,
so severely, especially towards the back end of the year, where because of a hip injury earlier in the year, then a knee injury, then an Achilles injury, and then the reoccurring hip injury that I've had to manage. It's just been this constant battle of trying to fit this in, and then getting to the pointy end of the year where, because I'd fallen behind because of those injuries.
You got something chase, almost like you got someone like a big monster chasing you, and
and the goal was becoming further and further out of reach, because I'm going, it's now not 9 Ks a day, it's now 12, it's now 13, it's now 15, it's now 20, 25 that I've got to do in order to achieve that goal. So I think then when you've got to do 25 Ks a day and you can't physically run it because of these injuries that I'm carrying, and every run/walk is in physical pain, it's now taking me
thought about
5 hours out of my day to achieve the Ks I've got to do? So that's probably something. And I think when you go back to, I can't even add up all the days between season 1 and season 2, and probably more specifically since the second daughter was born, that we've spent away from home.
Yeah, I know.
And
trying to squeeze it in amongst the schedule.
And not even the run, but just the lurch that you leave like Amy in, having to parent not only a brand new baby, but then navigate the emotions of a three-nager, a 3-year-old that's absolutely going on 13. It's been bloody hard on her, because I'm someone who definitely, I think, and doing something called the Clifton Strengths Assessment definitely highlighted this for me many years ago, is my number one strength is responsibility.
Yeah.
All right. And it's this personality sort of profiling tool. And it might sound a little bit like not everyone's cup of tea, but
I can
spits out your top 5 strengths. Responsibility is my number one out of 34 possible ones. And the interesting thing with this sort of assessment is when your strength is working well for you, it can be really good. But it can also sort of be a weakness, right? And when I'm away and feel a sense of responsibility to provide for my family, to be a good husband, to be a good father, to deliver good work on the road, to uphold this commitment.
There's a lot going on.
To like a wider group of people that are following the run journey. There's this huge sense of responsibility, but then when there's so much responsibility that I can't feel like I can fulfill, that's when I start to fall down.
Like you let people down.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I'm not sort of living that number one strength and doing it well, and it sort of starts to work against me, like I'm responsible for all these things, but I'm not doing any of them as well as I feel like I should be doing them. It's just this sort of juggle and balancing act that then just compounds.
Yeah, and I reckon, knowing you like I do, responsibility is one. Somewhere in the next 4 of your strengths, you'd have to be around standards as well. Like you've got incredibly high standards, and you do things at a really efficient level in everything that you do. And then when you've got the run, when you've got the family, when you've got the shitty nappies, and when you've got so much going on in your life, if the standard slips, like you said, a strength can also be a weakness. So it can be a bit of a hindrance too, because if you're not performing the way that you expect to perform, it's a strength after all, right? You should be good at it.
Yeah, that's
If you're
it.
not good at it, all of a sudden, it's going to take a toll on your mental health too. So
Yeah, well, funny you say that. Number 3 is achiever. Right?
Achiever, is it? I was going to say, yeah.
That definitely is 100% what you're saying there. And then probably the other part, which is an interesting one when I think about my mental health, and it's actually been a pattern for a sort of number of years now, and it's not something that I necessarily like to go into, but it is something that, like I always on stage put my hand up and go, there's still days where I wake up and go, shit, I wish I could see today. I wish I wasn't blind. Like, I think that's a natural thing. There'd be moments where potentially you feel the same.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely
those,
there is.
as much as we say, look, the what ifs, the why me's, the what could have beens, the what should have beens, they're not beneficial. They don't help. It doesn't mean your mind doesn't naturally go there from time to time. And it takes a conscious effort to rip your mind back out of that and to focus more on the things that you can control rather than the things that you can't.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting pattern that sort of comes off the back of anything that we do, whether it be you and I, traveling the country. And then, like, I know that the driving's tough on you physically sometimes, and I go, oh, how good would it be if we could share the driving, right? And then
driverless cars, mate, bring them on.
Oh, I don't know how we go out in those dirt roads.
Off-roader.
That's it. We'd need an off-roader. So there's like,
But even one of our trips, in all seriousness, we dragged up, didn't we? We dragged up my old man. So big shout out to Ian, because we knew we needed to give him a chop out. Like, it was like burning the candle at both ends. We dragged him up to Coolman and Holbrook. He's 76 years old, just so I can help with the driving, because we just had such a massive schedule, and I don't know how we're going to be able to do this. So we dragged him out for one of them, which was really helpful. But
Timmy and I Timmy drove the car over to Adelaide
that was
one
the
time.
other one. Yep, giving everyone just giving us a chop out, which I think that comes back to awareness and saying, hey, listen, we just need a bit of a chop out. Ask for help if you need to.
Yeah. So definitely off the back of those moments and doing some of the things that I used to do, like when I say used to do, the things that I used to love being able to do when I could see, when I do those now and do them differently, the camping weekend was one. There's a whole sort of range of them. I'll find this pattern where I go, right, imagine if I could still see and do all those things, and how different would it be and how much more enjoyable would it be?
Just a reminder, isn't it?
And you just get stuck in that rut. So I think it's working through that and having identified that now, sort of looking back going, right, I know that that's not going to change. I'm not going to be able to solve that problem and be able to see again, but I've got to be probably a little bit better at managing the mental toll or mental impact that doing some of those things have, and sort of be prepared that, right, I'm going to go...
Almost anticipating a flat spot almost.
Yeah, 100%. And going, right, how do I service the car, or how do I make sure the tyres are pumped up, ready for how I'm going to feel afterwards? Because, like, in all honesty, mate, it's probably happened for 14 years. Yeah. And it's taken
just
this long.
On to the pattern, right?
Yeah, and I've probably known it's a pattern, but probably because of everything else that's been going on, sort of noticed the impact a little bit more severely.
Do you reckon you've noticed it because now you've got kids and you want to be up and about for them, and if it's impacting your mood, then you can't, you're not sort of...
Yeah, you got to keep showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you reckon that's been sort of the catalyst, and especially now that you've got a three-nager, as you said, she's getting to the point where you're probably noticing it more, and it's started to creep in. It's sort of a great way of sort of forcing you to notice it so that you can actually do something about it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's that. I think it's I think it was, like you say, easier when it was just me or pre-kids to go, oh, look, if I have 2 or 3 flat days and then get my shit together and get back on a roll, then so be it. Doesn't affect sort of anyone else, right? But when you got to be, like you say, showing up for kids, still trying to work, like still
running around the block,
juggling
50,000 times.
That's it, and then doing all the Ks on top. It's just a big load.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, right? That bottle has been overflowing, and it's just been trying to find the ways and the means to empty some of it out, and like we say, practice what we preach. So definitely had some tough moments and some rough moments this year. Ironic that it's happened doing something for mental health, but it was never going to be an easy challenge either. So I think it's
Certainly
probably not
wasn't.
surprising looking back now that the challenge of this sort of magnitude has had that impact. And the other interesting thing is probably, not that I really knew it at the time, but the likes of, say, a lot of people would be familiar with Ned Brockman, right, who took on the huge challenge of trying to break the world record for 1,000 miles. The quickest 1,000 miles, less than 10 days. Like, hat off to him. Incredible effort. Didn't achieve the world record by a couple of days. Like, the physical feat and mental feat that he went through and endured, naturally, you do what we tell people not to do and you compare, right? And you're going, well, shit, I'm trying to do 3,249 Ks over an entire year. He's doing half of that in 10 days.
Yeah, and he's
doing 160 Ks a day.
But the tendency is for me to go, mate, don't think like that.
Yeah, and many people
and that's
do.
the worst thing I can say to you, because it's like, you've got to go through and feel those emotions that you're feeling around that. But it's funny, you don't get the benefit of seeing what other people see.
No, you don't.
And
you don't.
You
When
don't
you're
see
stuck,
what
when
I
you're
see,
stuck in
and
it, when you're
everyone else
tunnel
that's
vision.
cheering you on and saying, "Fuck, man, 8 Ks a day, man, and 800 meters, I'm wrapped, right? Like, no, in all seriousness, I'm in the gym doing that sort of stuff. But if, like, the thought of going, to make my body work, but to put yourself through what you're putting yourself through is no mean feat. But I am also really, really aware that me saying that or anyone else saying that to you doesn't necessarily help.
No, you're right. It doesn't help. But I think the one thing that I do have to remind myself of, and people have, because the comparison definitely wasn't helping. But I've got to just remind myself that, like, Ned, that's his life. He's a single bloke. He's dedicated his life to that 24/7.
Yeah.
He's lived and breathed this challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas the whole part of 3249 Blind was mental health isn't something that you can only focus on that, because life goes on. So I'm trying to squeeze this challenge in. Haven't taken a day off for it at all this year, as in a day off to dedicate to it. I've just tried to squeeze it in and around
every other
parenting,
billion
having a
things that you're
kid,
doing.
traveling, working, traveling to places that I've never been before, and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's different in that sense. It's unique in that sense, and the comparison definitely hasn't helped the mental health. But it's just, again, choosing what you focus on and reminding yourself that don't compare the challenges. They're two very different challenges.
Wait a minute. So hang on. Just stop there. Wait, can Ned Brockman see?
Well,
Is his
I
eyes
think
work?
so.
Oh,
I'm
piss weak then. what he's trying to achieve, isn't he?
sorry, Ned. Sorry, I didn't say that, Ned. Hey, well done, Ned. Shout out to you, mate.
No more comparisons. I think we can all agree on that. But
Yeah.
no, I think you're absolutely right. And as you've just heard in this episode, it's putting it all out on the table. It's saying, hey, listen, whilst we get out there and we talk about overcoming challenges, resilience, mental health, wellbeing, and we're out there doing that sort of work, doesn't necessarily mean we're immune to it. Just like everybody else, have our ups and downs. The important thing here is that you're practicing what you preach, right? Getting out there, don't ignore it. Make sure that you're aware of what's going on. Check in with yourself regularly. The importance of talking about it, making sure that you're actually verbalising how you're feeling to somebody else, and whether it's a psychologist, a mate, butcher, whoever the bloody hell it is, make sure that you're actually having communication around how you're feeling. And then if you're in a position to help somebody else and be a shoulder to cry on, or just someone to lean on in a time of need, that's really important that you offer that to other people too.
100%. And just acknowledging that mental health, right, the head noise is no different to physical health.
Yeah.
Like, if you go, right, I'm physically fit at the moment, I'm physically healthy, I'm now for the rest of my life not going to do anything
Cue in the rack
to aid my physical health, right? I'm not going to exercise at all for the rest of my life.
Adonis status.
That's it, because I am fit, I'm healthy, I'm well, and I'm not going to worry about what I eat ever. I'm never going to exercise because I'm physically healthy.
Nah, something you got to work on.
It's going to decline.
Yeah.
Right. And mental health's no different. I think that's the misconception that so many people have is you have a tough time, get through the tough time. Once you're good again, you're sweet.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not the case, because so many, I suppose, challenges and tough times in life, as we've spoken to so many people around the country about, is they have an ongoing impact. And yes, the scars heal and time helps and all that sort of stuff, but the scars remain. And sometimes there's certain things that open them back up and they become open wounds. And it's about management and continuing, like you say, to put into practice and actually implement some of the stuff that we are talking about, which is, like we said in the last episode, not ignoring it, asking ourselves how we're really going, talking about it, emptying that bottle out, and helping the people around us do the same thing, mate.
Benno,
yes, mate.
Great to chat with you. Hopefully, it gives people a little bit of insight. Obviously, first season they got to hear about the incidents, I guess you could say, the backstories,
the turning points,
the blindness, the bloody leglessness, that we carry on with and stuff like that. That's just one part of a bigger picture. Everyone goes through challenges in life, and like you say, they're not isolated to one particular moment, and they don't go away. Sometimes it's a management thing. So those three things that we spoke about in episode 1 and then just touched on now are really, really important. They're practical. They help. But at the end of the day, if you are in a situation where you feel like you do need help, make sure you reach out, whether it's a mate, as we said, friend, family member, someone within the community, footy club, whatever it is, or even better, if you are really struggling, make sure that you reach out to one of those amazing support services that's available and really check in with someone that is objective and someone that can actually help you and has the skills to do so.
Bloody oath. Thanks for listening to Talkin Tough, and look forward to joining us in the next episode.
Yeah, look out for it. It's going to be spectacular. Guest episodes coming up, and they are brilliant. So stay tuned. We can't wait to get back behind the mic, and we'll see you all soon. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
Catch ya. Hooroo. Love you. Bye. Another fantastic conversation today. As always, if anything has triggered you in any way, shape or form, or you feel like talking about something, pick up the phone, call a mate, call a professional, or if that mate doesn't answer, you can always call Lifeline on 13 11 14. We'll catch you next time on Talkin Tough.